Senator Mike Gonzalez here with 12 News on the desk with Bram. Politics aside, what will you most miss about Senator McCain?
Oh, his friendship. He was, not just a wonderful statesman and towering figure in the Senate, but he was a true and good friend. And I'll miss campaigning with him and traveling around the state and hearing his jokes and wisecracks. And it was just a privilege of a lifetime to have known him and to have been the other senator from Arizona.
Let's talk about his political legacy. I've been asking a lot of folks that. What in your mind really sticks out about his policies? Because, he was able to cross party lines at times. He fought his own party sometimes. And,
right.
It seems as if whether you were a Democrat, Republican, Tea Party, you respected John McCain for where he stood.
And that's exactly right. I think his legacy is country before party. And to serve a cause greater than your self-interest. He wrote about that passionately, and he lived it, and that was his example. You have the example during the campaign that people are familiar with where somebody was denigrating, one of his own supporters, denigrating his opponent, Barack Obama.
Right.
And he stood in President Obama's defense. And that's just something that true statesmen do, and he didn't hesitate. That was him. Also, during that campaign, we had a financial meltdown when the country needed to take specific action that was painful politically, especially for a limited government conservative like John McCain. But he put that aside, went to Washington, and rallied his own party members to support a package that was needed at that time, and he put his campaign and his party on hold and said, "This is what I need to do for the country," and that typifies his entire life.
Senator, I want to ask you one more question before we let you go. Civility in the Senate. Senator McCain talked a lot about that, especially when he rendered that vote for Obamacare and the Health Care Act. And he talked a lot about civility. Without him there, and your decision to step away as well, can we return to civility in the U.S. Senate without John McCain?
Well, it's a lot tougher. He's been the conscience of the Senate in that regard. And all the incentives, just don't reward politicians to take action like John McCain took. So it's going to be more difficult, but in the end, we're going to have to find a way. Anger and resentment are not a governing philosophy, and we have to govern. And I hope and I'm confident that at some point voters will again reward those who value governing and decency. So I'm hopeful, as was John McCain. I just submitted a piece that will be online shortly about the time that we spent a few months ago sitting down on the deck watching Oak Creek dribble by, and John talking about leaders in Arizona that he had admired in the past and where we might go in the future. And he was optimistic that leaders will rise up.
What will you most miss about John McCain, Jerry? Because I know you had a close relationship with him.
Well, you just said it. The relationship that goes back many, many years that transcends the world of sports. He was a friend. He was a great leader. He was someone that we all depended on.
Well, one of my favorite stories about John McCain in that first campaign was somebody accused of him being basically a carpetbagger. And
right.
He says something to the effect like, "Hey, man, the longest place I've ever lived was in Hanoi, as a prisoner of war."
Known as the Maverick.
Events to honor Senator McCain begin today at the state capitol, where he will lie in state. Team 12's Mike Gonzalez is live there this morning. Mike, this is a pretty rare honor in Arizona.
Paul, you're absolutely right. We've been doing some research this morning, and listen to this. He is only the 4th person ever to lie in state here at the state capitol. He will join the likes of Carl Hayden, who did this in 1972, Jesse Owens in 1980, and former Arizona Senator Marilyn Jarrett, who lied in state in 2006. Guys, I think adding to the emotion of this day, this would have been the senator's 82nd birthday. His body's going to arrive out here about 9 a.m. There's going to be a private ceremony at 10 a.m. inside the rotunda. That's going to be led by Governor Doug Ducey, former Senator John Kyle, Senator Jeff Flake will also be a part of that. Then at 2 p.m., the public is invited to view the senator's body. That will happen through 8 p.m. But what we're told is that if there is a long line out here, guys, and people haven't had a chance to see the senator by 8 p.m., they're going to let folks in. It doesn't matter if that goes until 12 a.m. Then tomorrow there will be a service at the North Phoenix Baptist Church. That starts at 10 a.m. The likes of Vice President Joe Biden, Larry Fitzgerald will be a part of that. Former baseball star Luis Gonzalez, who was a really good friend of the senators, along with Grant Woods, who's also a very close friend. Then on Friday, the senator's body will be flown to Washington, D.C. He'll lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. Just the 31st person that will be bestowed that honor. Again, when you put that in historical perspective, guys, Abraham Lincoln has lied in state at the U.S. State Capitol, so he'll certainly be in good company. Then on Saturday, there'll be a service at the National Cathedral. Then Sunday, he will be buried at the U.S. Naval Academy Cemetery next to his good friend, Chuck Larson. So I want to talk a little bit about the parking issues out here. There's really not an official parking mantra that's been released. So if you want to come out, make sure you come out early. Also, like Jimmy mentioned, it's going to be 104 degrees today. So bring your umbrellas, bring a lot of water, because it's going to obviously be hot. There's going to be thousands of people out here who want to pay their respects. We'll be out here covering the entire process live. We're going to send it back to you in the studio.
You know, Mike, that's a good point. I didn't think about parking, because that is a tricky place to park and to find places to go. So Uber?
Yeah, that would be actually a good option, just to let folks know that Jefferson and Adams right in front of the Capitol is closed. So obviously expect it to be a mess. As I said, they haven't really released anything in terms of parking to the media. So essentially you're on your own. And if you're familiar with it, I mean, there's a lot of tight streets here. If you've got older folks, you just got to be careful.
And you don't see any lines yet, right? You don't see any people out there, because it is a ways to go.
I would say, you know, there's some activity. There's some honor guard folks. Our photographer Dan is going to zoom in a little bit. You can see activity starting to pick up a little bit here at the state capitol, but you know, in terms of people that are coming to honor the senator, I haven't really seen anybody. I've seen a couple of folks on motorcycles and just a couple of stragglers that wanted to get here early, but really the bulk of the crowd has not gotten here yet. What I will tell you is there are a lot of security. I've seen a lot of dogs sweeping this area, so expect high security as well. So they certainly are getting this place ready, because there is media from not only locally, regionally, nationally, but from across the world here covering this, guys.
All right, Mike, we'll check back with you in a little bit.
People starting to gather out there?
Yeah, the crowd is starting to gather just a little bit. I'm at 17th and Jefferson, obviously in front of the Capitol, and you guys talked about the emotion a little bit. There was a TV screen playing with what was going on inside the Capitol building, and just normal folks coming from outside these government buildings, taking pictures, taking videos, shedding tears. I talked to them, you know, and it was a diverse cross-section of folks as well. We're talking blacks, whites, Hispanics were out there. I talked to Democrats, Republicans, but they all sort of shared that same thing that Bram was saying. There's just something about the senator that united people and what he stood for. So I do want to bring in Antonio Mejia really quickly, who was part of the press pool, and interestingly enough, they let you guys go by the casket. What was that like?
Yeah, well, I'll start unexpected. I know that they had us in this room for the press. It was on the 3rd level right near the rotunda. Yeah. And we had two choices. It was either stay in that press room and be able to live tweet or take our notes from our laptops, or step out in the rotunda area and watch the service from the 3rd floor, but we could only take notes. So no cell phones, no pictures, none of that. And it wasn't until towards the end of the service, they're telling us we need to get our stuff, hurry up, because they're going to escort us back out. So we're all kind of just like getting our stuff quickly. Right. getting in line, ready to be escorted out. And it was along those lines that they told us, members of the media, that they were going to allow us to go and pay our respects to Senator McCain and view the casket. I didn't catch that part. So here I am being escorted out. We're being walked down the stairs, and we make it up to where Senator McCain's casket is. It caught me off guard, unexpected for me, but I realized, holy cow, this is once in a lifetime opportunity. Literally, it's the first funeral that I cover that's like this, so I did not expect this. It was pretty incredible in the sense that you could feel the reverence, you could feel the respect that was there, even on behalf of members of the media for Senator McCain. So
you sort of witnessed history. Was that the feeling?
Yes, definitely. I know that in our newsroom we've talked about, covering this and the respect and also the opportunity to be able to be part of this kind of history. So definitely, you feel that, you're going through it, and you get that opportunity to also, as a person, an individual Arizona citizen, to pay your respects to Senator McCain in person.
Well, we appreciate your reporting from inside the rotunda. And just to wrap things up, guys, so from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. is when the viewing, that's sort of the official time, but the folks from the McCain camp say, you know what, if you are standing at that door at 8 o'clock and there is a long line out there, they are going to give you that opportunity to pay your respects to Senator McCain. Right now, they're over at the fairgrounds. If you want a place to park, there's some parking to the north and south, but I would suggest that you go to the fairgrounds and they'll bus you in and then bus you back. For now, Mike Gonzalez reporting live at the Capitol. We'll send it back into you guys.
Yeah,
Well, honoring Senator John McCain's life continues this morning. 38 years ago, John McCain arriving in Arizona, yearning for a new start. The distinguished senator, 5 times reelected, has taken his last flight from Arizona, leaving behind an undeniable legacy. In his own way, on his own terms, John McCain has made his final journey to the East Coast. Today, the country will have a chance to say goodbye. The senator's body is in a funeral home in the D.C. area, arriving last night after landing in the nation's capital. McCain's casket, draped in the Stars and Stripes, was taken off the plane and loaded into a hearse. For McCain's family, the grief is raw, as you can imagine. His wife of nearly 40 years, Cindy, holding strong but welcoming the comforting grace of many, including Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. And his daughter Megan openly weeping at the sight of her father being gently escorted by military honor guard troops from every single branch. All of that coming after a motorcade through the streets of Phoenix, drawing crowds in the thousands, all lining the streets to honor their Senator John McCain along an 8-mile route from the Arizona State Capitol to North Phoenix Baptist Church, where McCain's younger children were baptized. Inside, more than 3,500 mourners, including friends, family, politicians, and members of the public, filled the seats to pay tribute to a true American patriot. Senator John McCain made his final journey to Washington Thursday, his flag-draped casket arriving last night. Today, Congress and the public will pay their final respects. Team 12's Tracy Potts is following today's memorials from Washington.
Back in Washington, one last time. The body of Senator John McCain will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol today, open to the public this afternoon after a private ceremony for staff and colleagues. Vice President Pence is expected to speak.
America will always remember and honor the lifetime of service of United States Senator John McCain. Amazing grace.
Today's memorial follows the Arizona service where former Vice President Joe Biden talked about their work together as political opponents and friends.
You saw the seared joy that crossed his face the moment he knew he was about to get up and take a stage in the Senate floor and start a fight.
Remembered with laughter by Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald.
I'm a professional athlete. He ran for president. I run out of bounds. He was the epitome of toughness, and I do everything I can to avoid contact.
Today, McCain becomes the 31st person to lie in state under the Capitol Rotunda, a man described as an American hero. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Washington.
Thank you. One of John McCain's closest friends, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who's a Republican, is speaking out about the way President Trump has handled McCain's passing. Graham saying he found the president's behavior, quote, disturbing. The president didn't follow protocol when he refused to immediately put out a proclamation honoring Senator McCain. And for half the day on Monday, flags were not at half-staff. The president did acknowledge McCain's passing by tweeting condolences to the family when Senator McCain died on Saturday. The senator, who at times and over the years frustrated some in his very own party, also made some genuine attempts to bring Democrats and Republicans together. As he made his final journey to the nation's capital from his home in Phoenix, emotions ran high. McCain's final flight left Sky Harbor on a plane typically reserved for the vice president. Team 12's Bram Resnick is in D.C. with more on what's to come. Bram.
As the nation's capital prepares to honor John McCain, the senator has a few final messages. Army veteran David Johnson wanted to say something to Senator John McCain.
I'm proud of the work that he did and the service that he rendered.
Johnson hoped to see the McCain motorcade after the family landed Thursday at Joint Base Andrews.
He was a man who worked for the good of the country, not the good of the politicians.
McCain has left plenty of messages for all Americans in this week's Washington services.
Having a Russian dissident who was poisoned twice himself, Vladimir Kara-Murza, as a pallbearer is extremely significant.
Ambassador Kurt Volker runs ASU's McCain Institute in Washington. One of McCain's pallbearers is a dissident Vladimir Putin tried to kill twice. McCain's message?
We can't forget about people like that. We have to stand behind people like that.
Then there's the presidential duo who will eulogize McCain on Saturday, Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Both wrecked McCain's presidential hopes.
By having President Bush and President Obama speak, he is sending a signal of bipartisanship as well.
There was one McCain family member who wasn't at the Arizona memorials. That was the senator's 106-year-old mother, Roberta McCain. We're now learning that Roberta McCain will attend all the events over the next 3 days here in the Washington, D.C. area for her son, including his burial on Sunday at the Naval Academy. In Washington, Bram Resnick, 12 News.
Bram, thanks a lot. Of course, Team 12 will be there to bring you the ongoing coverage of the late senator's national send-off with crews on the ground in Washington, D.C. Stay with 12news.com, our app, and our social media platforms for the very latest.